Hello, fellow Gladiator Beast. Today I am bringing you a not very quick video, but a new video that could be pretty long of my current Gladiator Beast build. I'm doing this right now because I'm having surgery in a couple of days, and that is going to prevent me from being able to use my arms in any significant manner, which means no Yu-Gi-Oh, no shuffling for a pretty long time. And someone asked for help. They said, hey, what's your side strategy for your Gladiator Beast? They had an event coming up. They have come to the fighting side. They've realized Gladiator Beast is the true meta. And I thought, well, let's just make a video before I can't use my arms, show off my new build a little bit. It has changed a pretty significant amount from before. Same idea, still a cat build, still test tigers, still all the good stuff. And let's just make also a side deck strategy guide, because a lot of people ask about that too. And before I go too far, let me show off these stellar Sacred Beast Uriah sleeves. These are sleeves I hesitated to use for a long time because they're kind of rare, pretty hard to find. I thought today's the day. Let's use them. And they're beautiful. So starting off the list, I'm going to start with, as I said before, this is still a Test Tiger deck, or Test Tiger and a Rescue Cat deck. Test Tiger is incredible. It is essentially a spell card that says, take any Gladiator Beast on your side of the field, return it to the deck, and summon it as another Gladiator Beast. Tributes for cost, so you don't get totally ruined by Royal Oppression. However, you do get absolutely smacked around by things like Book of Moon or Compulse, if they do have those in return. Now, to go with the 2 Test Tiger, I do run the 2 Gladiator Beast Sam Knight. Thank you to Jake Mattern for really turning me on to a double Sam Knight. And you will see Murray, a fellow Gladiator Beast duelist and enthusiast, has had a significant success with Sam Knight. So the idea behind double Sam Knight is, 1, if you draw a first Sam Knight, your Rescue Cat's still alive. 2, Rescue Cat into double Sam Knight is pretty powerful and can result into a relatively powerful play of Bestiary plus another Gladiator Beast or double Rediari, because I do also run 2 Rediari. Now, Rediari is significant in this list, and in every Gladiator Beast list, that if you're not main decking 2 Rediari, I hesitate to confirm that you love Gladiator Beast. Now, that's a bit of a joke. Definitely a little bit too much. But I say that because right now, top decks, if you haven't been paying attention to the Edison circuit recently, as in this past weekend, Vayu has obviously been probably the top deck for, I don't know, better part of a year now. Honestly, that deck's insane. But Amaryllis, plant decks have popped up. Zombies are still really good. Blackwings, always great. They run Vayu, they run Sirocco, they run Dark Armed, they run Blizzard. Heroes are always good, whether it be a hero build with Hero Blast, or perhaps it's a hero build with Miracle Fusion. Or frogs. Frogs are always a consistent threat in Edison. And guess what? Rediari loves frogs. Rediari is so important for a couple of reasons. Again, a cat into Sam Knight can become double Rediari. Can really mess up a lot of plays. To include dragons too. And that's important. So Rediari also makes, before I forget, because I will forget, makes the Dragon Turbo matchup even more manageable. Gladiator Beast, potentially the worst matchup for Dragon Turbo, to be honest. But Rediari can also remove spells and traps. In this case, you can remove Instant Fusion. You can remove Heavy Storm, Giant Trunade, whatever else might be important. Pot of Avarice, I don't know. Anything that Magical Stone Excavation would get back. You can remove Debris Dragons. I'm not sure that that's the first target, but you can also remove Card Trooper, Vortex Trooper, White Stone of Legend. Rediari at 2 is very important. Again, Rescue Cat can become 2 of these. It can also come off Gazaris. After you pop 2 cards, attack, double Rediari, you can really just ruin someone's day. It's very easy. Definitely run 2 Rediari, for sure. And it's something that I'd rather main 2 and side out to lower copies than try to side into higher copies. In my opinion, the second most important Gladiator Beast, potentially the first, is going to be the card that allows you to retain a lot of the advantage. Not even retain, but get advantage. Questy, obviously, just as a Gladiator Beast from your graveyard back to your hand. Pretty important in a deck that has low attack monsters, but also recycle that ever so sweet Gladiator Beast War Chariot. What more to be said? What more to be said? A Questy allows you to do a couple things, as in using your Gladiator Beast as fodder. To include, you sometimes just want to summon a Gladiator Beast and set 2 back row. If one of them's War Chariot, you're not totally scared of Heavy Storm, because while it is a +1 for the opponent on that exact turn, a Questy can very easily recur that back for you later on. It also makes Herc a lot better. And we'll talk about Herc a little bit later. But speaking of Herc, double LaQuarrie. I've seen some people talk about LaQuarrie going down to 1 copy, and I'll be honest. I could see it. I could see it in that you're probably wanting to lose. LaQuarrie's insane. I have thought about going up to 3 copies, honestly, but I don't want to draw it that often. That 2100 stat is wildly, wildly important in every single aspect of Edison Format. I would say 2100, 2500, and 2600, and 3000 are very specific stat points in Edison that allow you to get over, I guess, most equivalent level monsters. In this case, level 4. In another case, tie or get over Armed Wing, ties with Monarchs. 2500 gets over all that stuff previously. And then 3000 allows you to get over consistently Titanial, Colossal Fighter, Goyo Guardian, Thought Ruler. Oh, and conveniently, Heraclinos is 3000 attack. Pretty cool. 2 LaQuarrie. The 1 allowed Bestiary. Ooh, apologies for the glare. That is terrible. Let's do this a little bit. There we go. The 1 allowed Bestiary. Something that I've learned, and I think a lot of the reasons I've had success with this deck, let me say this. I've played this deck upwards of 60, maybe 70 matches, honestly, over the past month and a half. I've done very well over the past month and a half within those 70 matches, greatly outpacing my loss. My win-loss ratio is pretty significant. I haven't been keeping track, but it's pretty high. I would say one of those reasons is because I tried to lower my reliance on Gyzaris, meaning use Gyzaris. The card's insane. The card is insane. But don't be afraid to go into Bestiary. Oops, sorry about that. Hit my camera. Don't be afraid to go into Bestiary against a set back row, a couple set back rows. I've realized a lot of times I was playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Going into Bestiary to try to get cheap +1s when you can means that you are playing to win. So keep doing that. Do it. If you haven't been doing it, start doing it. Just take the chance, right? It's just a card game. We run 1 Darius. A lot of players are going with 2 Darius. I find that 1 Darius is great because I hate drawing Darius. And you would think that you'd want 2 Darius. In case you do draw it, you still have 1 less left in the deck. Well, even on those times I just draw the 1 Darius, I personally have, up to this point, again, many matches played, have never had a problem recycling Darius back into the deck in order to get it later on. That being said, Darius also, its effect isn't nearly as crucial as I once believed. Now, I do run the Prisma, little forewarning, I do run the Prisma, obviously 3 Test Tiger. I run the Prisma to match with the Darius, but Darius effect, like, it comes up, but it's not totally different. It's just 1 turn faster, I suppose, than a Questy. And it's mostly used for Heraclinos. And if I don't go on Heraclinos, it's not a huge deal. But again, we'll talk about Heraclinos in a little bit. 1 Darius, in my opinion, has been more than enough. 1 Murmillo. This card's been insane. Murmillo is absolutely insane. This card is what makes a lot of matches bearable in terms of, like, beaters. So specifically Black Wings. It is something that allows you to go Gladiator Beast, Test Tiger, out to Murmillo. And now, to the point that I've thought of even running 2 of them, honestly. Some players will say, oh, Murmillo, Ready Area, I hate drawing them. I can't stand them. They're so bad. I think that's wrong because I love drawing them. I hate drawing them that I can't go into them later. I love drawing them that they can still tag out and they get under Bottomless Trap Hole. Very important. Now, if you'll look, something like Deck Devastation Virus kind of hurts this deck, but honestly doesn't really hurt this deck. I still have, what, half of my Gladiator Beast are available. It hits Test Tigers, it hits these ones, hits this one, but they're all recurable by this one and this one. So deck Devi is never really a threat unless they get like a significantly good deck Devi, and then I just draw horrible for the next 4 turns. I have no problem drawing these weak monsters because it just gets me under bottomless. And if they want to use, I don't know, D-Prison, Mirror Force, Torrent against these guys, be my guest, please. I think that's awesome. Speaking of weak clads, I run the strongest clad, and effect only, Secutor. Now, I am at 40 cards. I originally was running 43, and the idea behind that was a specific monster count was built and created to match that you would, on average, have 2 glads with, I think it was 3 to 4 spells and traps, maybe a Test Tiger every now and then. I've changed my mindset a little bit, that while that is great, and actually it did work out very well at 43 cards, it did work out well. Check out Jake Mattern or Murray's channel for deck lists. I decided I really want the consistency of Rescue Cat. So you can't talk about Secutor without talking about Rescue Cat. If you're on Cat, you need Secutor. If you're on Secutor, you need Cat. They're kind of one and the same. Secutor obviously allows you to basically get 1 card Heraclinos, like Card's Insane. 2 attacks from Secutor. I'm not even sure that there's a comparable card in Edison. Maybe Dark Grepher. Like if Grepher stays on the field for more than 1 turn, the advantage that Dark Grepher can turn into might be comparable to what this gets you, as in you just get 2 free Gladiator Beast every turn, which means every turn you can get a Gazaurus or Herc. And there have been many games where I've summoned 2 Hercs. I've yet to summon 3, but I have summoned 2, and several games where I've gone through 3 Gazaurus. This card's really good, and it's what makes your Dragon matchup very strong. Rescue Cat becomes this card, which becomes essentially a 1-card Heraclinos. That means, in essence, if your opponent has 6, you have 6, you go Rescue Cat, you could theoretically go into this, and now you have Heraclinos plus 5. Is that how it works out? Usually, no. In fact, I don't think it's ever worked out like that. What really happens is that at some point, you're able to snipe your opponent's back rows between Bestiary, Dust Tornado, MST, General Gameplay, that when Rescue Cat goes into Secutor, they typically only have, I'd say, honestly, 3, maybe 4 cards max. If you get out a Heraclinos with 2 cards in hand against a 3 to 4 card hand, expect that Heraclinos to be a huge problem. What happens is you have this 1 card that just became a 3000 attack negation, spell trap negator. Not only do they lose access to spells and traps, they need a significant amount of monster resources, even if that includes something like a hand trap, be it Honest, Kaloop, whatever. It will take resources to out that Heraclinos that you got for 1 card. So I've kind of, paid a little bit of attention as I've watched and played. To out a Heraclinos, it usually takes, if they can out it at all, 3 cards. On average, I would say it would take 3 cards with powerful monster effects. Think of Vayu Turbo. They could have Raikou, which is 1 card out for sure. But remember, if you got Heraclinos via Rescue Cat, it's not a problem. To be completely honest, it's just 1 for 1. And they use their Raikou, which could be good and significant later down the road. It's usually not how the game ends up, because you're not summoning Heraclinos against a set card. You're summoning Heraclinos against something on board, and it's usually at least going to run over 1 card before the Raikou gets it. So now you got 2 cards for your 1 card. What typically happens is, again, Vayu Turbo, most played deck, probably. You got Heraclinos. They need something like Plague Spreader into Catastor or Brio. And then the other options are going to be Colossal Fighter Boosted, or Darkened Dragon, or Black Rose. And now, I don't think Black Rose is very common. They could have Gale into Black Rose, but that's still 2-card investment. Brio becomes a 3-card investment for monster on board, Plague Spreader plus discard. Catastor, 2-card investment. And again, this is all assuming that you didn't just attack over one of their monsters the turn before with Heraclinos. So it could be potentially 4 cards that Heraclinos is grabbing from 1 Rescue Cat. And you still have all your other resources. Rescue Cat's insane. I get it if you don't play it, but if you're playing Rescue Cat, play Secutor. If you're playing Secutor, you need to play Rescue Cat. You need to play Tigers. Again, Cat can also go into double Sam Knight, which can turn into, again, a 1-card Gazaris from these, or going into double these things, which can really mess up your opponent. Now, like I said, I'm running 40 cards. I want to maximize cat. What I originally was running was a copy of Test Tape to go with the cat. I thought this might make Rescue Cat a little bit more, how do I put it, a little bit better, I suppose. As in there's more targets, which theoretically just makes cat better. But I want to get to cat sooner than later. So I play 1 copy of Sangan. It's not maximizing this deck, as in there's no tuners, I can't sacrifice it, I just have to wait for my opponent to naturally get rid of it. So it's a little slow, but still, you get that Rescue Cat search off of it, or any Gladiator Beast, or Test Tigers. So really, Test Tigers and Rescue Cat. And what it does is, we all know what it does. Sangan doesn't do anything special, but it allows you to play a little bit differently. It gives you, again, stronger early games, because just setting Sangan is honestly not a terrible play. But it allows you to play in a way that normally, let's say you have a hand like this. If Sangan, these 3 cards, if Sangan's another Gladiator Beast, you're now susceptible to Mirror Force or Torrent, because you have 1 monster on board and then 2 in hand. Well, you need to play another Gladiator Beast. Sangan allows you to keep a Gladiator Beast in hand, obviously summon this, and then it's not real commitment. You can play into Torrent, you can play into Mirror Force, because you're getting that Sangan search. If they banish Sangan with Caius or something, that's fine. We all know Raikou makes Gladiator Beast a little painful. Raikou's definitely a good card against Gladiator Beast. It's not good against Sangan. Card Trooper, good against Gladiator Beast. If I just set Sangan, not good against Sangan. I've had a lot of success with Sangan, especially in low resource games. Let's go back to the Value Turbo matchup. They have, let's say you're both at 1 card, whatever, I don't know. They're able to get out the Armed Wing. You have Sangan, you set that, search out Cat, search out Test Tiger. Well, now you can go into Murmillo to pop their 1 monster, because that does happen. It is very common to get into low resource games against something like that, where you have no option to do anything, but having that Sangan available to take that Caius attack, that Armed Wing attack, whatever it is, to get the Rescue Cat, to get the Test Tiger, to get that Bestiary you needed to match the other Gladiator Beast on your field, is pretty solid. I have had a lot of success with Sangan. Highly recommend trying it out, just because that instant access to Rescue Cat is powerful. Alternatively, another card I've been thinking about, but I haven't played yet, Spirit Reaper. I really like Spirit Reaper. I think it has a lot of opportunity in Gladiator Beast. Again, just the idea that Gladiator Beasts thrive in lower condition cards, and Spirit Reaper discards card. Prisma. Prisma matches the Darius. Prisma, very similar to Rescue Cat. Prisma plus Test Tiger is a combo as old as Egypt itself. It's great. And then the card that I'm still on, that I'd never dropped, Gores. Gores helps you win games that you just shouldn't win. We all know Gores is great with MST. Gores is great with Dust Tornado. Gores is great with Trap Dust Shoot. I max out all those cards. Has Gores had awkward situations? Sure. But if Blackwings are going to play Gores with main deck Oppression, double Black Whirlwind, listen, Gladiator Beast can get away with main decking Gores. It just helps you win games that you shouldn't win. It's a strong monster that special summons itself in a deck that is entirely reliant on normal summons, except for Test Tiger. Gores is a fine addition. Definitely try it. Over to the spells. Nothing has changed here. 3 Book of Moons, 1 MST, 1 Shrink. I will note that if I were to play a 40 first card or swap out one of my 3 Dust Tornadoes for anything, it's probably going to be Heavy Storm. Yeah, not much more to say there. Not much more. Second Shrink also could be good. Shrink has actually been pretty solid. However, I think it actually, in this specific case, was the 41st card that I did drop. But I would want Heavy Storm and Shrink in this deck. And now on to the extensive trap lineup. Starting with 3 Dust Tornado. Listen, if you haven't learned it by now, let me tell you. Dust Tornado is like the secret Edison card that everyone knows about, but no one is on yet. Everyone talks about Blackwings doesn't really have a card that matches up well outside Dust Tornado. You don't need more than Dust Tornado, honestly. This hits Oppression, this hits everything in value. Hits everything in Frogs. You know, if they set traps, great. Dust Tornado at end phase. and then lets you set something like your Solemn, or who knows what, right? It lets you, that set is actually an incredible effect that you definitely need to take advantage of. Hit Black Whirlwinds, hit all types of stuff. Dust Tornado does it all, and I've had incredible success with Dust Tornado. I will continue to run triple Dust Tornado until Edison stops happening, which hopefully never happens. Now here's a card that could theoretically, I guess, go down to 2 copies, but I've really enjoyed 3. I've really enjoyed 3. Deep Prison, in a deck like Gladiator Beast that has relatively weak monsters, Deep Prison just does great things. And in a similar vein, Compulse. Again, Compulse allows you to just bounce those free Bayou Synchros, absolute zeros, and again, they play a very similar role. In fact, Compulse was so good, I'm almost, not quite, I was almost at the point of wanting to do 3 Compulse, even to the point that I can just go, again, similar to Shrink, I can go summon Bestiari, pop a back row, and they try to bottomless, Compulse, or Shrink, or Book Moon will save my Bestiari and allow me to fight for another day. So, you know, if you haven't learned what Compulse is in Edison yet, try out Compulse. This card is really good. 2 Bottomless Trap Hole, debatably the best trap card in the format. It's not even close. Trap Dust Shoot is much better trap card, but Bottomless is really good. I would always max out copies of Bottomless, either whether it's main deck or side deck. Bottomless just does a lot. Some matchups it's not great in, I guess. Fairies. I don't know how often you're going to play against Fairies, but yeah. Trap Dust Shoot, similar to Gore's, actually. You just win games. You flip it over, you see their whole hand, which I think helps Gladiator Beast more than potentially any other deck, because you want to, I guess, sculpt your field in a specific way. It's kind of hard, I guess, to understand how you want that Gladiator Beast. The idea of sculpting your field and sculpting the way you want the game to go. And Dust Shoot just makes it 100% guaranteed. 1 Solemn, again. I've seen some players drop Solemns. I think there are some decks where you don't want Solemn. If I'm playing against like Value Turbo, maybe I'll side out Solemn, just because they can quickly get 4,000 points on board. But if you're the better player, then Solemn is going to basically ensure that you win. And I think in a deck that does have Heraclinos, you need to have that Solemn. 1 Call. Card is simply too good in Gladiator Beast. Simply too good with Prisma, too good with Test Tiger, way too good with Rescue Cat. Starlight Road, a deck that runs significant amount of back rows. Obviously, Starlight Road is something that you want. Now this card, again, this Deep Prison, they could potentially become Shrinks or Heavy Storm. This just makes you a little bit weaker to Oppression, but at the same time, just being able to play against Heavy Storm, Black Rose, I don't know, Judgment Dragon, Mirror Force, all that type of stuff. Bottomless Trap Hole, if you want to go Rescue Cat into double Sam Knight, or Gyzaris into 2 Lakori. Don't do that because Brand Control is really good, but it still plays against the Bottomless Trap Hole. So Starlight Road, I have not been let down by it main deck yet. Again, this could be Heavy Storm. If it was, you'd have to adjust your playstyle, but I do like the 1 main deck. I was maining 2 before. I do side that second one now. 1 Mirror Force. Again, Amaryllis is popular, which means Titanial is popular. Plant Frog is popular, which means Titanial is popular. This is one of your few outs, I guess. Once a Titanial is already on board, it can be pretty darn difficult to get rid of. So you can have Mirror Force. You could do a cool Gyzaris play if they have a token out. If you want to try to book a Moon It or something, I'm not even sure that works. Shrink, and then they don't negate the Shrink. Who knows, right? But Mirror Force, just old reliable. And then I actually only play 1 copy of War Chariot in the main. I do side 2, but I only main 1 copy. Now, it's interesting because my idea for a lot of this deck was if I'm going to lose to Oppression, lose harder. The idea being if they're going to beat me with Oppression, that's fine. If they have it, they have it. I need to play as much special summoning as possible without being a Prisma specific build. I think I've hit that pretty darn well. And then the Triple Dust and MST obviously help a lot. But the 1 Chariot, you know, you see some people main decking 3, usually only 2 at this point. It's a card that is searchable and recyclable, reusable. In your bad matchups being Black Wings and Hero basically hero anything, but something that just summons Alias, I guess, Sirocco, anything 1800 or higher, it's usually not particularly good. And then the matchups where it is really good, the Vayu Turbos, the Frog Monarchs, or Frog anything really, your main deck is already pretty darn powerful against that I am positive, I'm confident in my ability to get the majority of game ones without needing this. Additionally, those decks usually run pretty weak monsters that do allow you to get that Samnite Search into this, and then you can just start cycling it over and over and over, that you only need the 1 copy. Like I said, I do side the 2 copies to be able to go back into it. Or be able to side those in as needed against the Monarchs or whatever it might be. So that is the main deck. In the side, let's go extra deck, because there is one card that I'm missing. Stardust. That guy. Triple Gazaris. I've seen people not run 3 Gazaris, and I don't know why. They say, oh, you'll never need 3. Yes, you will. You will. I promise you. If you play this deck enough, you will need 3 Gazaris. It'll happen. It's happened to me a couple times. It just, Bottomless happens, Solemn happens, Oppression happens. Things happen. Run 3 Gazaris. Same thing with Herc. I've seen players only run 1 Herc, and they say, they'll say things like, oh, you only need 1. No. Again, Solemn happens. Sometimes Colossal Fighter gets up to 3,100, right? I don't know. Things happen. Run the max copies. You don't, outside of these cards, you don't need anything else. I will note I am missing 1 card, Sandwich. I don't have a copy at this exact moment. Yes, these are Battle Pack Championship cards. And yes, these are Secret First Eds. I do have the Alties. I prefer the Secret First Ed. But I am missing Sandwich, so Prisma can send Sangan for Call the Haunted or whatever it might be on some rare instances, or if I just don't want to draw Sangan for some reason. This here brings up a pretty interesting point. So a lot of times, if someone opens up turn 1 Prisma, nothing else, they don't summon the Prisma. I love going turn 1 Prisma, effect, show Herc, send this to the grave. What this does is it sets up my next turn. If I have another Gladiator Beast, or later on in the game, I can attack a Questy, get you back. Darius, get you back. But what it does is, say this lives 1 turn. So first turn, I send that. Second turn, I send Bestiari by revealing Gazaris. I have Gladiator Beast. They fuse into Gazaris. Gazaris destroys 2. Gazaris attacks. Gazaris tags out to 1 Darius and 1 Quest. Darius special summons, a Quest adds back to hand. At 2 cards, the Prisma and original Gladiator Beast, I now have 4. These 4. These 3 fuse into this Heraclinos. And I have at least 1 negate in hand, or any other, plus any other cards I might have. Like I said, or alternatively, I now have a Gladiator Beast that can be summoned, attack to tag out next turn, or a Gladiator Beast I can summon and fuse. Remember, Heraclinos and Gazaris can be used for fusions. Use them for fusions. Use them for fusions. Some players, they don't. They summon this, and then they'll have the opportunity to go, like I said, Bestiari fusing to Gazaris to pop 2 cards. Just do it. Just do it. You can come back into this later. Now, something I will note about Heraclinos is I do summon this pretty often. More often than I ever thought I would. This card basically solos dragons. It solos a lot of decks. It loses really only the common cards being Raikou, Caius, Cataster, Darkened. What else? A boosted Colossal, I guess? I don't know. And then Clute and Honest, for sure. Luckily, this stops all of those. Luckily, this stops a significant amount of those. Luckily, these stop a significant amount of those. Luckily, these stop a significant amount of those. Why do I say this? I say this because I don't think I've ever had a game up to this point that once I summon a Heraclinos, I've lost the game. And the reason for that is, not only does this card obviously have an insane effect, I don't think there's another card in Edison besides Solemn Judgment, maybe, that has just the negate options that this has. You know, Jinzo gets trapped, Spell Canceller for whoever runs that for the weak spells in Edison get spells, but I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think there's another card that can even mimic what Heraclinos does. There's not a lot that outs it. Obviously, no spell or trap can out because of its effect. They have to play in a very specific way. But even monsters, I just went through, like, there's like 6 monsters, 7 monsters that can out Heraclinos. So if you get this for 1 card Rescue Cat or whatever it might be, it took you literally nothing to get it out, and you still have all of your stuff in hand. To out Heraclinos, to beat Heraclinos, usually takes bare minimum 3 cards investment, and that's like on a good note. That's without any spells, without any traps, just having good monster effects via, maybe they have Diva in hand, potentially. But again, you run how many interruption cards here? And then if it's Diva going to Catastor, include the Deep Prisons, the Mirror Force, the Bottomless, right? That goes for all the synchros. This card is just Mr. Reliable. Mr. Reliable. Same thing for Gyzaris. I think a lot of players really underestimate. No one underestimates Gyzaris. A lot of players underestimate the ability to go into Gyzaris. We always talk about Dad, Brio, Judgment Dragon being absolutely insane cards. And those cards are insane. Undeniably insane. But no deck has the access to that type of card like Gladiator Beast have access to Gyzaris. Even with one Bestiary, Gladiator Beast's ability to go into Gyzaris basically is unparalleled to any other deck's ability to go into its boss monster. Only because it's extra deck. It's extra deck against a monster that basically gets searched by 95% of your other monsters. It's good. And you don't always need to destroy 2. And it's whenever it's special summon. So if it goes to the grave by battle somehow, call the Haunted, destroy 2. I think there was a new ruling for Darius recently, very recently, that if you summon Darius, bring this back, for example, or in Gladiator Beast, Book of Moon, this card that Darius brings back, its effect goes off because the game state no longer recognizes it as a card special summoned by Darius. Their effects still activate. They're usually negated, but if you book it to flip it down, or compulse it, or whatever, anything except Bottomless Trap Hole for some strange reason, they still get their effect. So, I don't know. Gladiator Beast extra deck, while being relatively small, is extremely powerful. Now, going on to the side. This is adjusted for what I learned over the past couple of weeks. I do only side 1 Cyber Dragon. Now, the reason I only do 1 Cyber Dragon, because typically Cyber Dragon is a card that most would think fixes Gladiator Beast's problem of extra special summon a beater. And that's true. But what I found is whenever I'm siding, I never wanted to side in more than 1 Cyber Dragon. In fact, the second Cyber Dragon never got sided in. And the matchups where I do want Cyber Dragon, there are also matchups that always run like Oppression. Or they'll side into like 2 Oppressions. Hero Beat, Black Wings. I guess to get over basically everything in Value's normal, like regular deck. But they also have the Oppression, the Bottomless, and that's cool, I guess, but I would never want to see more than 1 Cyber Dragon, and that's just how it happened. It's just, in theory, I didn't think that. In actual playing, I never wanted to see more than 1 Cyber Dragon. So I took 1 out of the main, and now I side 2 Hedge Guards. Again, really good for certain matchups, and I guess okay against most matchups, but not great against every matchup. I like the main deck a little bit more focused on getting that Rescue Cat within those 40, or just getting to certain combo points. But this obviously comes in against Hero Beat, anything with Skill Drain. This is really good against because it just allows you to play around with the Gladiator Beast still. If you're expecting Colute, Honest, so Hero Beat, Fairies, Black Wings, this card beats it. It just beats it. They use it, and then you go, okay, Chain Hedge Guard, and then they lose their Colute. You'll take some damage. You'll probably take a lot of damage. But then you tag your monster out to Murmillo. So for 1 Hedge Guard, you got rid of 2 threats. Hedge Guard's really good in a lot of side decks. And then I no longer main this because, again, like I talked about before, I'd rather have the double Rediary in the main. But I do side the 2 Hoplomys. That will probably, not probably, it does come in, depending on the matchup, I guess. But I'm going to bring this in against Black Wings, Hero Beat, and I guess any type of deck that if I look at it and I just see like a normal summon pass, so Machina type deck, Hoplomys is coming in. It's also incredibly good off the Geysaris tag to go into Lakori and Hopalamas, which means something like Brain Control cannot get over both monsters. They need like a way to convert the monster. I'll do this one first. On my body, card that I do want a main deck, I just chose Starlight Road over my body. No particular reason, but it's really good. Again, Blackwing matchups for all their destruction effects. Hero Beat, anything with Alias. So Gemini, Spark, and Hero Blast obviously get stalwarted by My Body's Shield. Good card, good card. We know it does. I do run 1 Terraforming to match double Ancient Forest. It's going to be a little odd. Some players will just say only do 2 Ancient Forest or just do 3 Ancient Forest. I do like the Terraforming because it does allow me to, I guess, proc the Starlight Road if needed. I can set it as bait. But it also does like an Upstart Goblin thinning effect. So I can go Terraforming, and obviously now my deck is 1 card a little bit lighter, which is always a good thing to be able to get to other things faster. Ancient Forest, incredible card. First popular, and it's probably getting more popular every single day. As Hamster, Raikou, just flip effects, I don't know, Fossil Dyna, whatever. Ancient Forest is just so good. And obviously, this is the de facto Gladiator Beast field spell that I can attack, tag out, they cannot attack. It is interesting. I think a decent copy is a 1-of against like Dragon Turbo and even like Amaryllis, just plant decks in general, because something like Titanial, they just fold under this. They just have to either lose their monster or pass. So a little bit of more Blackwing hate. Trap Hole, and then the second Trap Hole, I guess, or you could see it vice versa. Torrent. I've seen some players run double Trap Hole within, you know, my small circle of players that I play with. I prefer the Torrent because it does allow me to just hit more than 1 monster. What can I say? Torrent's like a cool card. I side this in against anything outside in Trap Hole, so if I'm expecting, except Frogs, I would side this in against Frogs because it just pops the entire board. And I don't, what are they going to do after? I have had games, how do I put this? I've had games where Rediary, no kidding, banishes every single frog card, and then Torrent just pops double dupe, and they have no searches. That has happened. Not often, but it has happened. Also, I guess, proc Sanyan in those rare instances where you have both, but just the ability to, I guess, they normal summon a Blackwing monster. You don't have to use it if you're not going to lose right then. And then you can grab another Blackwing monster if they start special summoning or next turn or whatever. So this could be a second Trap Hole if you want it to be, but I like the Torrent Trap Hole. 1 Starlight Road, again, if it's just a deck that just pops 2+, just throw in a second Starlight. Trap Stun. So Trap Stun was an interesting card that I wasn't really playing around with or focusing too much on because I already have the MST, I have the double or triple Dust Tornado. But I played Trap Stun online, and the only reason I played it was because I played against another Gladiator Beast player who did use Trap Stun, and I had 4 back row, and then he Trap Stunned and destroyed literally my entire field. I was down to 2 cards to his 6 after 1 Trap Stun. So I tried it. I threw it in the side. And the next match, I matched up against a Blackwing player. In turn 1, I set Trap Stun. I think I just passed. I think I passed after Trap Stun. They had no out to Trap Stun. My turn, I draw. I just flip Trap Stun. And I did to that player what happened to me the game before. So much so that I almost want to go to 2 copies. But drawing multiple copies of Trap Stun with few ways to convert, that sounds terrible. I haven't played enough to know just how good Trap Stun is, but I have played enough to know that I want at least 1. And then the final 2 cards, as I've said, is going to be the War Chariots. 2 Gladiator Beast War Chariot. Again, I don't main these because, in my opinion, the decks that Gladiator Beast are already good against are really good. As in, the decks that these are good against, the main deck is already really good against. So I'm confident in the main deck, and then these just game 2, if I have multiple War Chariots against like a Monarch deck, it's feeling good. So that is the main deck, that is the side deck, and that is the extra deck with some pretty lengthy explanations. Let's talk about a couple of matchups, because I know a few players have actually asked me, I've had a few people ask me up to this point, what do I side? And I want to go over, it's impossible to go over every matchup, right? It is absolutely impossible to go over every matchup. So we'll just go over Vayu, Blackwing, Heroes, Hero Beat specifically, which I guess can kind of go for Diva Hero Beat as well. And then last matchup, what is it? Frogs, just frogs in general. So starting with Vayu. So we already saw the main deck, and I think I actually messed up the main deck a little bit. We saw the main deck. Vayu, you have to think about, how do I put this? Let me sort these a little bit. How you want to beat each deck. And actually, with that in mind, I want to start with Blackwings. I'm going to start with Blackwings. How you want to beat each deck. Blackwings, in my experience, have been stopped, not by stopping the Black Whirlwind, it's cool, but by stopping the normal summon. And this is something that shouldn't be of surprise. So in this case, things like Book of Moon, the Bottomless, honestly, even Compulse. These cards shine. These cards shine. Anything stops them from getting their first summon, which means it's going to affect their ability to special summon things afterwards. And then Dust Tornadoes and MST. Again, to try to preemptively snipe those powerful trap cards, the Icarus attack, or go ahead and hit the, let me just make sure I'm still within lines. Go ahead and hit the Black Whirlwind. Now, I will say this, and this is something that I've seen some players struggle with. Black Whirlwind is not the primary target. If you see if this is your hand where you have 5 cards and one just happens to be Dust Tornado, it's okay to set Dust Tornado pass. If they use Black Whirlwind, summon Shura, let it go. You can get them back depending on what your hand is, right? This isn't always. Save this Dust Tornado to snipe if they have a set back row. Then on your turn, if you have the option of, Rescue Cat or Tigers, you can then make some play out to Murmillo, which will pop their Shura, swing, tag out for Bestiary, pop their Black Whirlwind. So it's okay to let them get Whirlwind searches. Is it preferable? No, but if it's what happens, it's what happens. Don't worry. I've had matchups several times now where they go double Black Whirlwind, summon Shura, and I save the Dust Tornado because it's not going to help me in that state. And I just Dust Tornado whatever they set on the other side, their one back row. And then I've had, I think one time I specifically did have access to Prisma Test Tiger, which meant that I was blowing up their entire board that turn anyways. But we want to shore up on this. We want to shore up on the ability to do these things. Now, Compulse against Blackwings is, it's not bad, right? It allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to bounce their monster back. Not preferable if it's their normal summon. Allows you to bounce back a Synchro. That is preferable. That's a great thing. But alternatively, it allows you to bounce back your Gladiator Beast if it's targeted by or hit by Bottomless, D-Prison, Icarus attack. It allows you to send that back to the hand. So these are cards that I typically don't want to mess with. If you do want to side like one of these out, whether it be one book, one Compulse, I would understand. It makes sense. But I would say this right here is probably bare minimum of what you want to mess with. Now we look at the monsters. What we're expecting is some amount of oppressions. These cards right here, I don't care what the matchup is, in my opinion. Rescue Cat, Test Tigers, you don't mess with these. These do not leave your main deck. These are like your win conditions. Me personally, I don't think there's a reason to play Gladiator Beast without these 4 cards. So you don't mess with those. But what you can mess with is certain other things. Secutor is a card that you might want to think about. Blackwings have an immense amount of disruption. They have Icarus attack, they have Mirror Force, they have all types of stuff. They have strong monsters. Can Secutor get through? Potentially, but it's just another big target for... Oh, sorry. Got stuff on my sleeves for Royal Oppression, for things like that. So this is something maybe you want to side out. I don't know, but these, I always leave these. So what are things I do side out? Again, we talked about maybe you want to side out some of these. Shrink, probably going to go. Shrink loses to Kalute. It can help in some situations against Bottomless or whatever, but typically, I don't know, not the best. If you're going second, you can shout out Trap Dust Shoot. Normally, if you're playing 2 main deck War Chariots, you want to side one of those out. We already only play 1, so it's not a big deal. And then something like D-Prison, you could probably side out a copy of D-Prison. But what we want to look at is from our side deck of those 15 cards, what do we want to side in? If you're going second, Cyber Dragon is probably pretty good. If you're going first, no, keep the or do not side in Cyber Dragon. So that just depends. You have double Hedge Guard. These are definitely going in. This card, again, beats Kalute, lets you go set a Gladiator Beast, whatever they attack, you Hedge Guard, tag out to Murmillo. Hopefully they have an empty field. So 1, 2, some amount of Hoplomys. Maybe you want to side in 1, maybe you want to side in 2. I think 1 isn't bad. It is also really good just to go into, because without specifically, I guess Blizzards can kind of go into 2 different outs. But without Blizzard going into an Armed Wing or Goyo, or access to Gale, so that's like, what, 4 cards? I don't think they really have a way to out Hoplomys. But if you also have back row, it becomes very difficult to deal with Hoplomys. So 1 to 2 copies of Hoplomys, not bad. My Body's Shield. This isn't a terrible idea. I do think maybe you're really overplaying your cards, because you probably want to go into the Starlight Road as well. But now if you're looking at all those Dust Tornadoes, the MST, double Starlight Road, and My Body, at this point you're kind of asking for some dead hands. So maybe in this matchup you don't put in the My Body. You could against specifically Bottomless and Icarus attack, but I think Starlight Road, double Starlight Road might be a little bit more effective. Now, I do know some Blackwing players are kind of adjusting their playstyle, that sometimes they will side out 1 or 2 Starlight Roads, just depending on what they expect in the matchup. So maybe you don't want to side those in. I think in general, it's probably always safe to side in that second Starlight Road. And then we have 3 more cards. So Trap Stun, again, can be an absolute blowout, Torrent, and then Trap Hole. That's what you side those things for. Maybe Cyber Dragon, maybe, depending on if you're going first, second. And that also influences what you're going to do with Trap Dust Shoot. I think Trap Dust Shoot you might be able to keep in, just because generally, if you're expecting Black Whirlwind or something, I don't know, maybe Blackwings don't want to set so much stuff, so you might be capable to keep this in. Unless it's something like Frogs, I usually always side out Trap Dust Shoot if I know that I'm going to go second, because it is painful when you draw that Trap Dust Shoot. So let's not do Cyber Dragon, so let's just go with this setup at this exact moment. So you have 8 cards. So now you just need to learn about your deck. What can you mess with without messing with the integrity, the core of your deck? And by that, I mean, what makes your deck work? Your deck works, again, through the Test Tigers, through the Rescue Cats, through the Gladiator Beast. So what are we going to mess with? Right here, we have 5 cards. There's an immediate 5 cards. So we're going to put in these 8. So these are probably the first 5 that I'm taking out. Again, they're good in random situations independently, but I think these 8 are probably going to be a little better than these. Secutor. Again, a card that requires a lot of stuff to go right. And Blackwings is a deck that plays a lot of back row. A lot of back row. So this is something you definitely don't want to draw in this matchup. Game 1, I'm willing to worry about that, because Secutor makes a lot of matchups way better. But we will go ahead and side this out. So right there's, was that 6? 6 cards. So you have 1 more card to work with. In this case, probably a Rediary, right? Rediary is decent in the Blackwing matchup in terms of, how do I put it? It hits Vayus if they have it, Sirocco's, Blizzard targets, Dad targets. But in general, if they just kind of move into like a beatdown type of game with Shura, Bora, Sirocco, and don't worry too much about synchroing or whatever, this card's probably going to be one of your weaker cards for sure. So I think it's okay to side out. So here we have 7 cards. And maybe now you're looking at your deck and you're thinking, there's not a whole lot more that I want to side out in this case. I don't want to mess up too much. You could side out a Book of Moon and only leave yourself with 1. I don't recommend that, because Book of Moon is very versatile, allows you to get over a lot of extra deck cards and do a lot of plays, right? So maybe you don't want to mess with it anymore. In that case, we just look back at what we're siding in, and maybe you only decide you only want 1 Hoplomys. So right now, we have our side out of these 7, and we side in these 7, and that is in the Blackwing matchup. So let me just go ahead and put my side back over here, and let's talk about Vayu. So Vayu, a deck characterized by pretty strong early game and powerful monster effects. So right away we know we probably want to pop up to We probably want to go up to Triple War Chariot. Not a terrible card. Late game War Chariot, obviously awful, but hits Rykos, hit Hamsters, hits Greffer, hits Dark Arm Dragon, hits Armageddon Knight, hits the Caius, hits, I don't know, everything in the main deck outside of exactly Vayu and Sirocco. So let's start with 2. We're going to say at first we want 2. Maybe that's going to adjust a little bit. Maybe we only actually end up putting in 1. But we know we definitely want in some amount of War Chariots. I think looking at the monsters, I don't think anything here is going to help out our Vayu matchup exceptionally. Maybe a copy of Hopalamus isn't terrible. The problem with this is that Hop doesn't do much against the Synchros. In fact, Vayu is characterized by winning almost exclusively through Synchros or like Caius, and Hop can be really good, but it could also be bad, right? So we'll put that in the maybe pile. And what this is for, and we'll put one of these here as well, this is once we look at our sort of cards that we have, our 15 to look at that we want to maybe put in, we're going to look at our main deck and say, do I have enough cards I think are better in this situation? So we just looked at Blackwings, and that's how we end up only putting in 1 Hop over 2. You know, again, player preference at some point. Ancient Forest. This card is basically an OTK. And then by that logic, we're also going to put in the Terraforming. Now, looking at these, is anything here seem particularly useful against Vayu? Yeah, Trapstun, for sure. And then maybe even Torrent. I think Torrent is something that we probably could argue is going to be good in a Vayu matchup, in a low-resource game where you might be able to snipe a Vayu summon or even a hamster grabbing Raikou. So let's just start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's look at what we can match up from our main deck. And we're going to set these off to the side. Going through the monsters, I don't think there's anything in the monsters that I personally want to mess with too much. I think everything here has a very specific reason for being here. So I don't really want to mess with the monsters. I think that's pretty good because when we look at what we want to side in, outside of Hopalamus, we don't want to mess with the monsters too much. So I'm okay with that. Looking here, Book of Moon is probably by far and away the weakest card in the Vayu matchup. Spell card wise, right? It's still good, but it can give Vayu Synchros their effects. It can flip them down and allow you to attack over stuff. I do think in this situation, maybe some of these cards could be a little bit better. So we're going to put actually 2 Book of Moons here, potentially just 1, could be 2. I think actually Shrink might kind of fall in that territory as well, where it could be really, really good, but maybe there's something better that we could find. Now, looking at the side deck, what do we not need? I would debate Starlight Road in this matchup. Hits Heavy Storm, hits Black Rose, Mirror Force, and Torrent. But I think maybe we could play around that. In my personal opinion, we could play around those cards, and by playing a little bit more carefully, game 2 or game 3, we can make that not as effective. Again, trap dot shoot, depending on are we going first, are we going second. In this matchup, these traps, I would not mess with any of these traps. These are what make the matchup basically in your favor. Now, something that is probably going to shock people, Solemn Judgment. I do not like Solemn Judgment in the Vayu matchup. And the reason for that is Greffer is just 4,000 damage right away. Greffer's 4,000 damage straight up. So Solemn is something that I usually side out in all of my Vayu matchups. And then maybe we even want to look at Called Haunted. Again, player preference. I personally would probably keep Call in. But if you know that they're definitely going to 2 Oppression, maybe call something you want to take out. But let's just, I think Call and Book of Moon, you could like choose between these. It's just you as a player, right? What do you want to do? So we have 5 here and potentially our 6th card there. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I do think if we are going to side in that Trap Stun, we will go ahead and keep our Book of Moon in the main deck. And we're going to side out these 6 in favor of these 6. So that's probably going to, I'm not saying certain, but that's probably going to what it's going to look like. Again, I think there's something to be said for putting in that 3rd Chariot and maybe even Hopalamus. I'm going to go ahead and put my side back over here. And my main deck over to this side. All right, so then we got frogs. Again, the main deck against frogs, already really good. But if we're looking at the side, 1, 2, 3. Oops, I just dropped a trap stun. And honestly, trap stun is something you could debate about. If you know it's going to be like a trap heavy version, right? It just depends what that game one is. If you know it's going to be a trap heavy version, maybe trap stun is something you want to do. With all the discard traps, could be very, very good. If you see absolute zero, maybe my body is shield, something you want to think about. Honestly, this is also a matchup where something like Hedge Guard might be interesting in terms of, think about this. Caius effect to banish a back row, maybe, I guess, I don't know, and then attack your Gladiator Beast. Maybe this Hedge Guard could come in handy. I wouldn't recommend it, but maybe it's just something to think about if you want to try it in your own time. But for sure, these three, and then potentially, right? Potentially depending on matchup. So what we really need is just to find 3, right? Our main deck's already pretty stacked against this, right? So we don't want to ruin that harmony too much. So Starlight Road, potentially, again, could be just an easy card to side out. Probably keep all these. So you kind of want to keep these because something like Vanity's Fiend could really ruin your day. So usually don't want to mess with those too much. Compulse, if it's just Frog Monarch, probably not the best of cards. If you see absolute zero, maybe a little bit more effective, but these cards are probably better. So maybe Compulse is one. Dust Tornadoes, probably something that you could possibly side out. Again, similar to the Trap Stun, it can just hit those end phase set cards really well. So maybe you don't want to mess with it too much. Spells, probably going to keep all the spells the same. So in the monster lineup, probably keep the monster lineup the same. I think every monster really shines in this type of matchup. So these 3 you want to put in. I think here you're going to be your 5 flex spots against most Monarch type builds, just to kind of see what happens. But I think as soon as you put these 3 cards in against any of the Monarch builds, you're going to have a pretty decent time for the most part. So we're going to set these back off to the side. And then was that every matchup except for Hero Beats? Hero Beats going to be the last one I talk about. And the reason I'm only talking about these 4 is there's too many decks, right? At some point, you just have to learn what is good in Edison. And then just kind of like pay attention to cards game 1. If you have like a Machina matchup, what's good against Machina? Probably Hoplomus, probably Cyber Dragon, probably Trap Stun, probably Torrent, right? These cards are probably really good against Machina, so maybe you want to put those in. Randomly, one of Ancient Forests could just kind of ruin them as well if they don't have an instant out to it, right? If you see Hamster Raikou Caius, you're probably just going to put these in, right? So those are decisions that you just have to be able to make in terms of understanding Edison, understanding the format, the gameplay, and what's effective where. But if we're looking at Hero Beat, now there's a couple different ways you can take this. If you see Honest, maybe all these 5 you just want to put in right away. You just want to put in all 5. My Body's a Shield for Gemini Spark. Torrent, because Torrent can just really, in a deck that only runs, 12 to 14 monsters, Torrent can really just ruin their day if they don't have some way to save their field. Can make them run out of gas real fast. And then Trap Stun, another card that can really just kind of ruin their back row to get you there. But then also Trap Hole. So similar to Black Wings, it's okay, in this case, Trap Hole, Dust Tornado, whatever, because you want to play around Gemini Spark. Just set Trap Hole. If you're going first, set Trap Hole pass. They summon Alias, whatever, just Trap Hole it. And then they have no Gemini Spark target, right? And now, I guess, Alias in the graveyard, which is kind of tough, but it's off the board. So that's something to think about. If it's Diva Hero Beat, you probably don't want this because they're just going to special summon. It doesn't hit Diva, doesn't hit absolute zero, but it only hits Alias. So something to think about if you're seeing Alias, seeing Rios, seeing Barbaros, something like that. Something to think about. In general, I think we're going to have these 8 cards that we're going to side in. So we're looking for 8 cards to side out. Diva Hero Beat, Shrink could be really good because they have strong monsters. MST's obviously always staying. Book of Moons. So this is an interesting card. Gemini Spark, I believe, reads tribute 1 face-up monster. Well, Book of Moon puts it face down. So it also plays around Honest. But it is kind of a weak card because it's not really interrupting their plays. So maybe 1 Book of Moon is something that we can think about. if you're expecting special summons to be stopped by Rule Oppression or whatever, maybe call the Haunted. Trap Dust Shoe, I think in a Hero Beat matchup, you're probably always keeping this in. Usually they tend to have large hands, but this is something you could side out. It just depends on their playstyle. If you see game one that they just set 4 back row, and as you play through the game you realize they didn't have a Solemn or Starlight Road set or whatever, this is something that you probably side out because they're probably going to want to play around it. Starlight Road, again, if they're like your Gladiator Beast deck, playing a lot of traps, maybe they don't have Heavy Storm. Maybe it's not going to be good. They don't have access to Black Rose. They don't have access to... They probably have Mirror Force, but maybe they're not playing Torrent, whatever, right? So Starlight Road becomes less effective in favor of that Trap Stun and that My Body. So I think we could probably side that one out. Compulse, again, if it's just standard Hero Beat, Compulse can be really, really good against like Gemini Spark targeting Gladiator Beast. It can be insane, putting it back to their hand. It wasn't destroyed. They don't draw a card. It can save you against the Hero Blast, Torrent, Mirror Force. So maybe we do want to keep 1 copy just because it is flexible, but maybe we can side a copy out. Dust Tornadoes, we're always keeping 3 Dust Tornadoes in any type of Hero Beat matchup. War Chariot probably hits an Ocean, Honest, and Stratos. This is something we could probably side out. I think out with 3D Prison, the Compulse, Bottomless, Mirror Force, maybe Honest isn't too much of a threat. We don't really need to worry about it. We could probably side it out. And if they're going to side in, or if they're going to have Skill Drain, it's already going to turn off their Ocean and Stratos. So there's a high chance that you just have War Chariot, and maybe they never draw an Honest, and you're basically playing 1 less card. So this is something you could set out. Going into the main deck, with the monsters, again, we're siding in double Hoplamis and Hedgeguard, because Hedgeguard just is strong against Hero decks, and Cyber Dragon, same thing. We can start looking at Rediary. So maybe both Rediary, but if you see like a Miracle Fusion, I'd probably keep one Rediary, but definitely side one out. Secutor, same thing. Skill Drain, Oppression, not super good. Prisma, I think Prisma is a card that I really didn't pay attention to too much in any of these siding patterns, but this is a card that you could look at side out. I think early game Prisma is one of the best cards in the deck, but as the game goes on, it probably gets a little bit worse. But based on the fact that we are planning to, sorry, something on my sleeve. We are planning to side in the Skill Drain, and we do still have double or triple Dust Tornado and the MST. Probably going to keep that. Again, so Rediary could potentially want to side out both of them. Just depends what you see. And how many cards is this? Let's count real quick. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favor of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now remember, things like Hedgeguard, it's basically a spell. So even though we're only siding out 2 monsters, it doesn't really change our monster count too much because this is essentially a spell card for all aspects of matchups. But that will be this hour-long video up to this point. Sorry I don't have any real-life examples in terms of actually going into a match. I hope you guys enjoyed the lineup, as in the deck recipe, the deck list, all that type of stuff. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Hopefully these siding patterns, siding ideas will help you out as you play the deck. And it's very important to memorize your siding patterns, but again, some matchups are just going to be so random. What if you play against Flamevel? If you play against 6 Samurai or something, I don't know, right? What do you side against? Well, that's going to be up to you. You just have to look at what they have in game, then use your knowledge of what's good where. And if you don't have that knowledge, keep playing. You'll eventually get that knowledge. Too often, I see players who just keep switching decks way too much. And because they switch decks literally all the time, they don't gain the knowledge that's required of certain matchups, siding patterns, things like that. And that's why they consistently have a hard time topping, winning, doing whatever it is. So that is my lineup. You guys have a wonderful day. If you watch until the very end, thank you so much. I hope this helps you out. Hope it does good things. And I hope you win with Gladiator Beast. Have a good day and bye.